Welcome to Knockhill Racing Circuit, home of the third round of this season of the Alpha Touring Challenge. Opened in 1974 and best known for the British Touring Car Championships, today we'll be playing host to the Alpha Touring Challenge, the third round of Season 11. We have a 30-minute race lined up, and then a 20-minute race with the top 8 finishers from the previous race being inverted. The drivers will have to manage the monster chicane that's Knockhill Sports, as well as the crazy run down from turn 1 to turn 2 to turn 3. A very short lap, just over a mile long, this circuit is. So the drivers down on the grid will be looking for every single edge they can find, because track position is going to be so important here. All 30 drivers are lined up on the grid, ready and waiting. So let's head down there and take a look at some of the drivers that will be participating in today's 2 races at Knockhill, the first of which is set to be quite foggy. Fuad Ridgeless starting alongside Spencer Clark on the grid. Finished P9 at Hockenheim in class, looking for a better result today. His teammate Brandon Dryers is here with him today, making his first start for this season. Dan McFarlane starting a little further down the grid. It is a P8 start for him, and the SRG driver is the best starting SRG driver on the grid. He's alongside Francois Schink with McKinsey and 2 up ahead. The Yellow Flag Motorsports drivers will have a lot to defend against from that third row. And speaking of McKinsey, his worst qualifying performance since early on in Season 10, Micah Hendricks sits just ahead of him in P3 on the grid behind the leaders. Both of them will have some work to do if either of them want to win this race. McKinsey having a teammate there to help him will be nice, whereas Micah is a bit on his own, and David Bauer also on his own, a stellar qualifying from him. P3 for the Breakfast for Dinner driver, and we have a great mix of talents up in the upper pack. But in the front, it is Savidovic making his return to the Alpha Touring Challenge. His first race since Season 9, and he's put it on pole, just ahead of last week's winner at Hockenheim, Michael Polasek. Now a Yellow Flag Motorsports driver, he sits just to Savidovic's left on the start in that red and black Veloster. They are set up and ready to race. Savidovic, the Season 8 champion, the Polish beast, back. Will he stay? Is he here to dominate Season 11? I guess we'll find out. 2 races coming up at Knockhill. The stage is set, 30 cars on the grid, and everyone is now just waiting for the signal for the race start. 30 minutes and then 20 minutes coming up on the Alpha Touring Challenge. Let's go. 30 cars lined up on the grid here at Knockhill Racing Circuit. Let's take a look at the conditions for today's race here at the International Layout. We have a 30-minute race lined up for you. That is the first one today, and then that will lead into a 20-minute race. The grid set by the results of the first, but the top 8 finishers will be inverted. So if you finish 8th in this race, you're going to be first to start the next race. Temps are really cool today. Lots of fog. It's typical early morning British weather, so we expect this to eventually clear up, but for now the drivers are going to be going headlights on into this mess. And let's take a look at the grid for the race. Waj returns with a bang to the pole, 33 thousandths ahead of last week's winner, Michael Polasek. Here is the rest of your grid. All right, the grid is set and we are waiting for the green lights here at Knockhill. And Savinovich will lead them off here at Knockhill, and he's got a great start to get this one going. Polasek tucks in behind him. Looks like McKenzie and 2 teammates going side by side for that 5th position. And it's going to be Francois Schenk tucking in to try and take advantage of that. Goes around the outside of 2. That's a position gain for Schenk. Further down the order, it looks like everyone's starting to filter out. You got 2 cars going too wide. That's Spencer Clark just tucking in ahead of, looks like that's Brian Saab. And looks like the whole field is going to make it through the chicane okay for this first lap. And the leaders going side by side into the final hairpin on the very first lap. Polasek around the outside. Can he hold that in that Veloster? The Audi typically good on the exit of corners, but Waj didn't get the best exit, so now they're going to go wheel to wheel. But it looks like the Semper Racing car has a slight edge on the inside line going into turn number 1. He's going to gun it, try and stay ahead of Polasek. He cannot edge ahead, so they're going to stay too wide. Look at this. David Bauer is all over it, trying to sneak in. Can't do anything. They all tuck back in. At 5 leaders, look at that. You could cover them with a very, very large blanket. And the top 5 on top of each other. And looking at this from above, it's very foggy out there. Further back, we got a car off. That is Matt Zepka, and he has gone for a slide after messing up the chicane. Now a lot of cars getting in here. Jason Lynn's going to go around, and this is going to create a bit of havoc, and it's a bigger wreck. There's a lot of cars on the track there. Hard to see through the fog. I see Sedano, Cockayne involved. Brandon Shelton was picked up in that. Franco Aguirre was involved in that as well. So back to the leaders. Savinovich is still ahead. We have Lazan and Al Rizla going side by side. This is for P14 or P13, and Lazan manages to sneak ahead of the Motorsport Racing Team driver. Up the chicane there, that's David Mitchell ahead of Dan McFarland. McFarland under pressure from Anthony Harrison behind. Francois Schenk has gone wide at the turn after the hairpin, actually, and Mitchell's going to take advantage of that. Thank you very much. And around he goes. Side by side into the hairpin now. This is Saab under pressure from Lazan. And Lazan up the inside, pulls it out of the corner, and he finishes the pass. We're going to have to stay low to the ground with these camera angles to actually get a vision on these cars because there's so much fog. Schenk under a bit of pressure from McFarland in turn 1, but not much you can do there. And He holds on. So as it shakes out, it is Svitic, Polasek, Bauer, McKenzie, Hendricks, and then in the Delta class, it is Spencer Clark in the lead. He is ahead of Lazan, but crucially, he's serving a slowdown, actually. He has to serve a slowdown and yield that position back to Brian Saab. Saab makes an error going around him. He's trying to keep it into the final hairpin, but Clark's going to have the inside, and he may have a chance to rectify his mistake. Saab beats him on the brakes and is going to have a nice run off the outside, and Brian Saab is going to pull into the Delta lead, and now Rijla is going to pull on the left side to Spencer Clark, and he's going to have a go at him. Into P2 for the Delta class. Who's going to come out on top? Clark is going to back out of this one, and into turn one, it is Saab, Rijla, Clark in the Delta class. Looking ahead now, we're looking at David Bauer, Logan McKenzie, Micah Hendricks. This is the battle for third. McKenzie in fourth, Hendricks running that gold filter in fifth, and Bauer going wide. That's going to allow McKenzie to sail around fairly easily, though he gets pretty close out to him. He's just trying to keep Hendricks behind. He wanted the inside line. Let's see if he can hold it here. And McKenzie trying to defend two cars at once. Bauer trying to get the better exit than Hendricks, but Hendricks has a lot of pull in that Veloster. He's inching ahead, and I think by turn one, Bauer's going to have to yield. Let's see if he keeps it in. And he is behind. So both McKenzie and Bauer, McKenzie and Hendricks go through on Bauer. Anthony Harrison side by side with Shink at the turn number one. And Shink is going to edge that one out. Looking back at the leaders, these two, look at that. Waj had a bad exit there, so now Polasek going for the lead. But Svitic gets a better exit. That Audi has so much pull up these hills now, these exits. I think the outside line works as a perfectly fine defense for him. Because what's Polasek going to do on these exits as he sends it again into the first, or the final hairpin. There's a small touch, and down the straightaway, the Alpha leaders are going at it. And there is a lot of TCR experience between these two, both inside and outside of this league. Svitic on the outside into turn number one, but he's going to hold it. Polasek's going to back out there, and that is Svitic holding the lead. Polasek, and these two battling, has allowed McKenzie to creep back up to them, and Hendricks is not far behind either. The Delta leader, Saab, has now pulled out a 1.5 second lead over Florida Ridgely. So we'll stay here. We'll bounce back to Dan McFarland as he's right on the back. Oh, we've had a big crash. Kirk Lane, his car is destroyed. I see, I think he may have been the only one involved in that. We're looking at Brandon Dreyer. He has damage on his right front, but I don't think it was related. I'm not sure. We're back up to the front because the leaders are now nose to tail. 1, 2, 3. Francois Shink has had an accident. Oh, he's messed up the final hairpin, maybe? Damage to the left front of the Sia driver. He gets a bump draft from James Carr down the straight, and they go into turn number one, back to back. So we'll cut back to the leaders, and the 80 has a big problem because Polasek right on his gearbox. On board with the Season 8 Alpha Champion. This is Roger's first race since, I believe, the start of Season 9. So it's great to have him back. Great to see him back in the lead. Maybe he has a vintage moment in him here at Knockhill, but he has both Polasek and McKenzie to contend with behind. It's Audi versus Veloster versus Elantra. Lap traffic coming up ahead. They may all have to play a little nice here to get through unscathed, and they are going to have to wait up, and this is going to allow Hendricks to pull up to the back of them. Shelton gets by there, and Hendricks will go by him as well. That does still help out Hendricks a little bit, I think. And these three coming down to the final hairpin now. This is where we've seen Polasek attempt a lot of moves, but nothing on this lap. 8 minutes into this event. So we still have 22 minutes to go, and we've already completed 9 laps of this circuit. It's just over a mile long, you can tell. We'll jump back to the battle for 14th. Evan Clavijo, Christian Ost, and Adrian Fedorowski. 3 drivers, 3 different teams. Yard Complex, Simworks, and SIA. All battling for that final Delta podium spot. As Francois Schenk pulls onto pit lane, maybe a meatball from the damage, maybe the damage. Yeah, see, he's coming back out now. He got the fast repair. So maybe it was a meatball, maybe the damage was undrivable. He has fixed it, and he'll be back out. We'll jump back to the leaders. Polasek is pretty close, just edging through the grass there. He's going to try and send it on the 80. Whoa, and he does. He stamps it and mails it, and he is trying to get a good exit out of the corner, but can Savinovich actually do this down the straightaway now? Polasek has a half car's length advantage. By the time they get to turn 1, he's almost fully ahead. Can the 80 hold this? I don't know. They're going to come down through turn number 2, and into turn number 3, Polasek has the advantage for the first time. He's going to edge the 80 out, and now coming up to the chicane, I think it's going to be, oh, he gets turned off. He may, oh man, they both came together, same piece of track. Savinovich really loses out there. Polasek cuts straight through the chicane, so he loses some time, and through go McKenzie and Hendricks. So just over 20 minutes to go in the first race of the day, and McKenzie is thrust into the lead after, I don't know how. I wish we could go back and look at the replay, because Polasek somehow manages to not end up in the far left wall, and Waj manages to back out. So now the leaders are a bit more spread out. We will jump back to Matt Zepka, who we saw go off earlier. He's looking for a move on Eric Curtis, who's making his first start in the AlphaTouring Challenge. Going to the right of Curtis's Audi. This is for a position in the top 20. And he gets through. And Kevin Clark's going to try and follow him down to turn number 1. But he tucks back in. So we'll jump to Savinovich, who is under a little bit of pressure from David Bauer. I wonder, does David Bauer try to fight him, or does he try to follow him back up to the leaders? Polasek is on the back of Hendricks now. I've seen a couple cars just go wide, and that Christian Ost is now ahead of Evan Clavijo. He's going to go defensive into the final hairpin. Clavijo to the left side. He's outbraked Ost a little bit. He's also gone really wide. Fedorowski comes up to the back of the Complex Simworks Honda, and both of them managed to get and stay ahead of the Yart Elantra. And now Clavijo finds himself at the back of this little train, and now Fedorowski's going to have a little look into turn number 1. Try and throw Ost off his line, but it's not going to work. Back to Polasek and Hendricks. Hendricks has now lost McKenzie. He's 1.3 seconds off. On the last lap, McKenzie and him did about the same lap time, but if Polasek starts to fight him, and I think he will, I think he thinks he is faster than Hendricks, it could just allow McKenzie to drive away. As we see Lazan and Mitchell going side by side out of the final hairpin. And look at this group of cars that's stacked up. There's a lot of purple and black in this group. But Mitchell leads it. Lazan faking to the right and then tucking back in. And the fog's clearing a little bit. You can almost see the cars down there. But Mitchell is still ahead of this group as they come up through the chicane. You see how all these different cars take it. And actually, Lazan completely misses that curbing. And back there, you see a car going wide. Not sure which breakfast winner driver that is. A lot of drivers going off track at the moment. Guado Rizzola is now 5 seconds behind Brian Saab. He's putting on a Delta Clinic. Dan McFarland is going to go around Anthony Harrison. There's a lot happening at Knockhill right now. Harrison now demoted to be just in front of his teammate, Delta leader Brian Saab. And that is the edge of the top 10. Saab 11th, Anthony 10th. Through turn number 2. McFarland is on a quest to make SRG the 2 leading drivers in this group. Looking back to the front, Raymond 2, see he's 7/10 off of Bauer. Savinovic still ahead of Bauer. He's now pulled out 8/10 of a second gap. They're navigating some lap traffic back there. Polasek may look for a move on Hendricks here into turn number 1. Who's going to hold this? Up the inside. Hendricks is going to have the inside of turn number 2. Polasek has the advantage, and Hendricks backs out, and they don't lose a whole lot of time on Logan in the meantime. So we'll jump. Oh, we saw Savinovic. He was catching up to that group. He was catching up to Hendricks, and he went off at the chicane into the gravel. And Mitchell has done the same. So now he's all the way back behind that whole group. And that group is now led by John Lazan. So McFarland now on a bit of a recovery for SRG. Rijla may have gone a bit wide there, trying to chase down Mitchell. He's in 12th overall, P2 in Delta, but that's still great points, even if you're P2 in your class. Polasek has closed up this gap a little bit. 4/10 of it is gone. He's now within a second of McKenzie as we approach the halfway point of this race. We're probably going to do about 34 or 35 laps within 30 minutes. A very frantic race. Some of these guys still dealing with lap traffic, and a lot of this traffic has been kind of deposited on track from the larger wreck that happened earlier, I believe. You see Lynn and Dwyer there. They were both involved in it. Two's going to come through on these lap cars as well. And Bauer's back up to the rear of Savinovic. And Saab is side by side with Dan McFarland. And McFarland is behind Anthony Harrison now, so maybe he's made a mistake, or the 4OG drivers have found something. They make a little contact coming out of the final hairpin. Saab's going to try and force his way not in the top 10, but into the top 9 as the Delta driver, as the Delta leader into turn number 1. He's got the Honda on the inside, but McFarland's able to hold it around the outside in turn number 2. So Harrison up into 8th. He's gained 4 spots in this race so far. But John Lazan has gained 8, started in 15th. He goes a little wide there, but he is sort of on an island on his own right now. Zepka still working his way through this field. He's behind Kyle Murray into turn number 1. And, whoa, a big slide from the Sia driver, but he managed to save it. Back to the battle for P3, P2, Christian Ost has caught Fuad Rijla, so they are all fighting for the scraps that Brian Saab is leaving behind, because he is, I think, 8 seconds up on these guys? About 5.5 to 6 seconds. It's a pretty sizable gap. Shane also on a recovery drive along with his teammate Zepka, so he's a little bit further up, 2 spots up. Sitting behind Spencer Clark and Evan Clavijo. He's got some work to do. And there's the onboard through the chicane. Will he make a move in the next corner? I think there was a chance, and he's going to try it late. Clark had a little wiggle through that corner, and ironically, I think it's going to cost Shink into the next corner. Clavijo's going to get away from both of them a little bit. Oh, but a dive into the final hairpin, and nothing Clark can do about that. And the 18 comes through on him, and that is Shink up to 16th. Back to the lead, and Polasek right on the back bumper of the Yellow Flag Motorsports driver. They've got a little bit of traffic up ahead. I think that's Brian Song. And then there's a larger group with Kevin Clark, Brandon Dreyer, Kyle Murray, Matt Zepka. I think they will catch all of them, so it'll be interesting to see. You see McKenzie flashing Son there. Son has not been ahead of him for a full lap, so still, not required to let these guys by. Yeah, they're going to come through the hairpin here, and I think everyone's going to have to kind of play nice. Go on board with McKenzie as they come through the chicane. And now Son should go to let him through on the next straight. The three leaders, bumper to bumper. Well, I wonder what Hendricks is thinking at this moment. Do you sit there and just wait to see if these two fight and see if you can pick up the scraps, or do you attack Polasek as quickly as possible and try and snap him off McKenzie? Maybe you can force him into a mistake and go after McKenzie yourself. Right now, we haven't seen Polasek attempt to move on McKenzie like he had on Waj earlier in the race. So we'll jump back to Evan Clavijo in P15. We saw him pick up an off track, and Schenk has a good run on him into the final hairpin. And the 18 goes up the inside, but he's not going to have the run to do anything there. If you don't get alongside enough, then being on the inside of that corner is trouble. You don't get as nearly as good of a run coming up the hill. The car on the outside can roll it up the hill, maintain a lot more momentum. So by the time you come out of the corner, they're pulling away. And now, whoa, we have a little bit of a moment here. Polasek and Hendricks going at it in the final hairpin, but Polasek manages to stay ahead. And we're seeing the strategy play from Hendricks now, maybe. It is attack, attack, attack. McKenzie doing everything he can to play it cool up there with all this lap traffic going through. Polasek and Hendricks, every lap car is an opportunity, and a big one. Go on board with Hendricks as they go through this tight section. Look at all these cars up ahead. Brandon Shelton's going to dive out of the way. Now they have this three-car group. Shelton not fighting with anyone, so that's not as big of a worry. But this group right here, oh, as you see Kyle Murray trying to go for a move on Brandon Dreyer for P19, but these three cars have the leader behind them, so this is going to get dicey. Let's take a look at what Clark does here. This is the battle for 8th in the Delta Class, and Evan Clavijo's had an issue. He's gone wide. Clark and Schenk battling. I think Clark's gone back through, so maybe Clavijo and Schenk came together through the chicane. Maybe both of them went off. But it's going to be Clark, but only for a moment, as Schenk again going for a move and manages to go through. Will Clark stay behind? He has momentum. But he's going to give Schenk the bump draft, so stays behind. And look at this. Clark let these guys through. Kyle Murray hasn't yet. Hendricks and Polasek are going to go side by side as Murray is still trying to catch Dreyer, not letting the leaders through yet. Polasek going to peak for a moment, but not take advantage of it. So maybe it's just catching them in all of this. So this is dicey. And we might have seen a slide from Hendricks there for a moment. Still too foggy to see anything from way up there, so we'll stay down here on board with Hendricks. You see McKenzie going around Murray now. Polasek trying to set up to follow him. Probably just going to go to the right side to the final hairpin. And up they go. So they managed to get by okay, and now Waj is right there. And Murray may actually... No, Hendricks is going to get by him here. But Waj will have to wait. Clark's managed to stay relatively close to Murray through all this. Dreyer's pulled away a bit. McKenzie and Polasek have survived. And Schenk is working on Christian Ost now as he's pulled away from Clark a little bit. Your Delta, well, we'll go to the battle for... we'll stay here because Ost may be under pressure. Schenk looks to the right in turn 1. Can he force Ost to make a mistake? Going down into turn 2, no, the Complex SimWorks driver stays ahead. Schenk will have to wait for another opportunity. Kevin Clark, I think he just went for a move on Kyle Murray there coming out of the final chicane, or the final hairpin, but could not maintain the momentum up the hill. McKenzie with Polasek right on him.
like he is a bit better out of that chicane, but not attacking McKenzie yet. They've now got a 6/10 gap on Hendricks, and here's the kicker. You know, Polasek, brand new member of Yellow Flag Motorsports as of this week. We might be seeing him wait a moment to attack McKenzie until Hendricks is a bit further back. We only have 6.5 minutes left in the race, so that can't go on for very much longer if that is what's happening. And the gap to Hendricks is not that big yet. So we'll see how willing they are to fight as we get towards the end of this race. And Savinovic is still back there too. Cannot forget that. Brian Saad, Delta leader, haven't checked in on him in a while, haven't had to. He's kind of been running his own race behind teammate Anthony Harrison, ahead of SRG driver Damon Mitchell, and now Schink and Ost. Schink tried to throw a move on Ost in the hairpin, but could not get around him. Sends him back to Clark, but I don't think Clark's going to do anything to turn one. Yes, he will go ahead and wait. And further back, Kevin Clark going for another move on Murray, and this time Murray makes a little bit of an error mid-corner. I think Clark is going to finally close him off. Down the straightaway, though, Murray has the momentum. He has the speed, but I think Clark's going to be far enough. Oh, wait a minute. Murray really good on the brakes into turn one. Clark trying to figure out where he is, trying to stay ahead into this corner. And he's got him, and look at that. That is David Bauer trying to navigate lap traffic. He is right in the middle of this battle, going off track big time. That's going to cost Kyle Murray, because he's not going to, pass him. So that is exactly what Kevin Clark wanted to see. Jump back to the Alpha lead. They go around Eric Curtis. And Hendricks is under pressure. He has slid almost 2 seconds back from Polasek, and now Savinovic is working on him into turn number one. The defending champion could be in trouble, might be in trouble. Into turn number three. Waj hops the curb, and Hendricks has nowhere to go other than to put a foot in the gravel and concede the spot. And that was supposed to be the slowdown for Savinovic. But now he has fallen off the podium. That was what he was at risk of. Jumping back to James Carr in 23rd. He started all the way in 30th, in the very tail end of the pack. He's gained 7 spots in the race thus far, and he's on the back of Jason Lynn, who after the big wreck earlier in the race, he's up to 22nd. He's only lost 2 spots in the race thus far. Rizla is just in front of Francois Schink. And I think Schink may try something just after the chicane. And that is a clean move by the Sia driver. And Ost is going to try and take advantage of this, and why not? This is for the Delta podium. And Ost is not going to try anything there. Rizla actually goes a little deep, and he's going way off. Oh, that's trouble. He manages to keep it out of the wall. He manages to keep it out of Schink. That's actually great awareness from Schink as well. We saw him throw a little dodge there, and that was really close. Glad to see everybody got out of that one alive. McKenzie holds the lead with 3 minutes to go. So far this season, at BIR, McKenzie wins. At Hockenheim, Polasek wins. McKenzie P2. We're looking at them again. Now teammates battling to win the 3rd race of the season. Less than 3 minutes here. So that's about 3. There's probably 4 laps left, including this one. On board with Polasek. They're going to come up on lap traffic here. That's Matt Zepka. There's a battle further down the pack. Evan Cabijo and Spencer Clark. Clark stays ahead there. Back to the lead. Polasek doesn't try anything in the hairpin on this lap. Coming to the line, they will have 3 laps to go. We are starting lap 33. Lap 35 will be the final lap. So Polasek is basically going to have maybe 3 or 4 chances. Sometimes you can get people coming out of the chicane, but really he's going to be looking at that final hairpin where he would send it on Savinovic. Oh, he really cuts the chicane there, and I am surprised that's not a slowdown. It may have been an off track, but he stays on the bumper of his teammate. Will he try something? Not this time. Not close enough. He was about 4/10 off McKenzie that time. He's got to be closer coming down to the hairpin. Waj is out of contention. McKenzie is warning Zepka that he's coming. And Polasek is right there. You might also look for Polasek through that corner right there, turn number 3. That is a spot where he could force a move. If McKenzie doesn't get the right run out of turn number 1, you send it around turn number 2 and then put it up the inside. McKenzie using Zepka to kind of box Polasek in here. I think Polasek would have been close enough to attempt to pass at the corner there, but Zepka was there, and now McKenzie has to defend. He's going to sit in the middle of the track. 2 to go. What's he going to do? To the outside, Polasek to the inside for the lead. Up the inside, ahead, and now McKenzie on the crossover. Comes back into the lead, and the Veloster has to tuck back in behind. 1 to go. White flag here at Knockhill. On board with Polasek again. This is going to be his last chance. Into turn number 3. Not close enough. They're going to go through the chicane. McKenzie gets a little rattled there. He's going to go on a slightly defensive line. This will compromise him going down the straight to the hairpin. Got a lapped car. That's Kirklaney gets out of the way. So here we go. Polasek, McKenzie, teammates battling for the win. McKenzie goes defensive on the inside this time. He's going to keep Polasek on his outside. What's it going to happen? Oh, Polasek trying to hold it. He's going to get the better run off the corner, but McKenzie made him turn in really late. Down to the start-finish line. It's going to be McKenzie just by a nose. He beats Polasek by a 10th out of the final corner. And back to the rest of the field, we're seeing Anthony Harrison and Dan McFarland. This is the battle for 8th, and I think McFarland's going to win this one after a long battle throughout the race. Further back, you got Brian Saab and Damon Mitchell. Saab, the Delta winner of the first race today. He comes home P10th overall, and he dominates the Delta competition. No contest for the 4 OGs driver. Adrian Fedorowski is going to bring home what I think is his first Delta podium of the season. Stellar performance from him, and Christian Ost with a great P3. Well fought for. He gained 4 positions in this race. And that wraps up the first race. They'll go into a warm-up for the next race, and we'll step away for a moment. When we come back, the second race of the day will begin. Remember, the top 8 finishers get inverted, so McKenzie and Polasek and Savinovic, they will be starting further down. We'll see how that affects the running order. It should be McFarland on pole as he finished P8 just ahead of Anthony Harrison. We'll be back for the second race. Welcome back for the start of the second race here at Knockhill. It is Dan McFarland on pole. Let's see how he copes with it. Alongside him, it's John Lazan. Green flag, and the second race today at Knockhill is a go. Dan McFarland leads them off. Lazan alongside, then it's 2 Bauer, Savinovic, Hendricks, Polasek, and look at that, Savinovic with a big move into turn number 1. It's 3 wide amongst the leaders. And they managed to sort that out somehow. I cannot believe that nobody is dead in that equation, but they keep going, and Savinovic tucks in behind Bauer. McFarland was on 2. Those are your leaders at the moment. Further down the field, you have Fedorowski. Fedorowski, speaking of which, spun off. Oh, right there. And he's got to wait for the whole field to go by. in the hairpin. You see Polasek making a move on Hendricks. Mitchell under pressure from Francois Schink, and we will jump to Polasek, tucking in behind Hendricks. There's Schink. He's not going to have the run on Mitchell. He'll have to give up. Back to Spencer Clark. Is this 3 wide? Yes, it is. Kevin Clark, Spencer Clark. The Clarks are squeezing Murray, and Murray decides I've had enough of that. Oh, no, but there's contact. And somehow James Carr manages to get through all this. I don't know how Kyle Murray didn't just take him out. Now he gets past Spencer Clark. What an overtake. There's all kinds of action up and down the field. McKenzie just going for a move on Hendricks, it looked like, but wasn't able to do anything. Further up, you see Savinovich throwing moves. Bauer throws a block on the inside. Lazon's on the outside. The B-Pretty teammates are trying to attack too, and at the same time defend against Waj. Schink pulls out behind. He has the run on Mitchell coming out of the hairpin. Will stay here because Bauer's defending against Waj. Into turn number 1, the Audi holding the outside. They come together, they touch, and Bauer's going to out of turn 3. Schink did get ahead of Mitchell going into turn number 1, so he is up through there. Zepka is off track again in this race, and now Carnage! There's so many cars. Savinovich is almost turned. Polasek is through. 3 wide. McKenzie going through on the inside. Lazon in the middle. And Savinovich is demoted down to 8th. And behind, McKenzie behind Lazon. And now McKenzie and Lazon side by side down the front straightaway. Waj is trying to preserve these spots. Oh, they may have touched. Lazon and Savinovich came together into turn number 1. They're just trying to keep with McKenzie, and McKenzie goes through. Lazon is not going to be able to hold this, and Savinovich has that preferred line, and I feel like I need a drink. McFarlane, through all this, has held on to the lead. And that has been quite a show. 3 minutes into this race, a 20-minute race, so just a bit shorter. And we're seeing some of these cars looking for some off tracks. Anthony Harrison got an off track. He lost some time out of the corner, and now Shinks going for it up the hairpin. Harrison had a little wiggle on the brakes, but he manages to gather it up. And looking to see who will have the advantage down the straightaway. I think Harrison's going to hold it. Harrison has done a good job defending and attacking both these races. Looking towards the back, Christian, actually, well, we should look at Harrison defending Schink first, because into turn number 3, he stays ahead. Schink tried to put it in there, but couldn't pull it off. Now the leaders, has McFarlane made a mistake? Because now 2's on it. Bauer's going through on 2, and oh no, that's a mistake by all 3 of them, and Polasek survives through the grass. Bauer is going to have to, Bauer's got damaged. That car's destroyed. He went left and slammed into the wall. Polasek managed to keep it out of the right side wall. McFarlane is still in the lead, but his lead has been cut down. Hendricks trying to go through on 2 as he got slowed up in all of that, and he does. So now McKenzie pulls up to the back of his teammate, and just like that, McFarlane's under a lot of pressure from a slightly faster group of drivers. Waj is back there too. The battle for the Delta lead going on. Christian Ost trying to stay ahead of Evan Clavijo. Clavijo got a big slide out of the chicane. And I hear more sliding because Raymond 2's gone off. He's made I think it may have been a mistake, but now he's parked right there and there's nothing he can do about it. And he slides down. He has to tow. Ost pulls out a big lead here, 1.2 seconds over Clavijo. McFarlane has 7 tenths on Polasek for the Alpha lead. 2, Fedorowski, Cockane, all those drivers in the pits. They've not had the best of days. Okay, so an eventful first 5 or 6 laps. I have no idea how there are this many cars still on track after all of that. McFarland under a lot of pressure now from the yellow flag motorsports driver. He's going to take a defensive line. Sitting in the middle of the track, lets Polasek go to the outside. And in the hairpin, what can he do? He'll get the better run unless McFarland completely cuts him off. And that is a nice move by the SRG driver. But now Polasek's going to have the inside, and that may not be where you want him. Here they come. Into turn number 1. Polasek got a lot of that curb. Cannot stay alongside. Hendricks and McKenzie and Savinovich all close up. And now, side by side to turn number 1, that's James Carr going around Kevin Clark on the back of Matt Zepka. And McFarland's made a mistake. He's gone wide in the chicane, and that's allowed Polasek, Hendricks, and McKenzie to go through. Savinovich has a shot at getting past him, but he himself goes a bit wide there. May have cut what momentum he had, so he may struggle to get around McFarland. Let's see. No, he goes for the move into the hairpin. McFarland with the better run, and nothing that Waj can do about that. Franco Aguirre on the inside of Kyle Murray into the final hairpin. This is the battle for 6th in the Alpha class. Brian Saab, the winner of the first Delta race of the day, currently sitting 8th in the Delta class, has not had as good of a time in this one. Side by side, the Audi stays ahead. It's Aguirre. Al Rijla stuck on. Oh man, that was close. We cut in right as they came up to the chicane. They're all trying to get in line. Carr and Zepp to go wide. Through goes Fuad Al Rijla, and Kevin Clark is going to follow. And now a slide ahead, and there may be even more scraps to pick up for the 119. He's sitting in 3rd right now. Christian Ost is quite a ways up the road. That is about 4.5 seconds that the Delta leader is up on Evan Covijo and Fuad Rijla. Behind James Carr on the outside of Spencer Clark coming out of the final hairpin. This is for 15th. And gets around them as they head into turn number 1. James Carr's recovery drive after starting 30th in the first race continues. He's made it halfway through the field since then, and that's a big hop from him out of the chicane. Back to the lead, Polasek, Hendricks, McKenzie. Hendricks is looking a little closer to McKenzie than he is to Polasek, but will McKenzie actually be able to pull off a pass? Al Rijla on the inside of Covijo. Kevin Clark encouraging him on, but I don't think he's going to get the run out of there. And Zepka runs into the back of Clark as they all stack up on the inside of the corner. And Carr is going to get a run off the outside of the corner, but not enough to get into any sort of battling with these guys. So they continue into turn 1. And Dan McFarland goes off track again at the chicane, and Waj goes through. Schink, Lazan side by side there, and Shink's going to get through a little wide, so Lazan with the better exit darts to the left side. Here they go to the hairpin. B4D versus Sia. Lazan really good on the brakes there. He's going to get a really nice run out of this corner. And Schink may be in trouble here. Here comes Lazan with the straight line speed. Down to turn number 1. He has nearly a full car length's lead ahead of Schink. Schink's going to try and keep the nose in, and he's successful into turn number 3. Lazan's got to give him the space, and he's going to have to yield it. Oh no! Here we go, up the chicane. They go too wide, and Lazan goes wide. Through goes Anthony Harrison on the both of them, and they're still battling. And Schink's going to go a little wide. Oh, Lazan has to dip into the gravel. Christian Ost, the Delta leader, pulls up on the back of both of them. He's looking for something. He goes right. He goes left. Too wide again into the final hairpin. Harrison's loving this. Schink did not get the best run there. They might go side by side into turn number 1 again. Behind them, Matt Zepka and Fuado Rizla going side by side. We'll cut back to them as soon as this wraps. Can Shink finally get it done in turn 3? Lazan gets a good run, but he can't do anything. He's got to tuck in. So, we jumped over at the right time as Rizla somehow doesn't die doing that. He was sort of losing control. He got into the side of both Zepka and Carr at the same time and got a big wiggle. Managed to save it, and now McKenzie and Hendricks are side by side. McKenzie's managed to pull a move on him into the hairpin. Can he keep it into turn number 1 and go hunt down his teammate? And into turn number 1, Hendricks. These are the 2 championship protagonists from last season, and they go wheel to wheel once again. Into turn number 3, Hendricks holds it, but only for a moment, into the gravel, and McKenzie hops the curb through the chicane and into P2. Hendricks not going to be able to come back at him, so we'll go to Kyle Murray, who's trying to stay ahead of Franco Aguirre into turn number 1. Behind that, Brian Saab trying to follow them through, and he does. There's great racing up and down the field everywhere you look. Back to the Delta lead, Christian Ost. With 8 minutes left in this race, it's looking good for him. He's actually hanging on to the back of John Lazan here. He's had great pace behind Clavijo and Zepka. Zepka's going for the over-under on him. He got a good run out of the corner. And I think he's going to be able to get by the Yart driver. And that's another car in between Ost and P2 in the Delta class. That is exactly what he wants to see. That gap is now 6.5 seconds back to Clavijo. Really looking good for Ost in this race thus far. Michael Polasek, there's been so much going on, we haven't had a chance to talk about him, but in all the chaos, he's extended his lead to 4.5 seconds over McKenzie and Hendricks. So with 7 minutes to go, we look on track to start the season with McKenzie winning a race, then Polasek, then McKenzie, then Polasek. We'll see if that comes to fruition here with less than 7 minutes left. Carr now Rizla in the hairpin. Now Rizla going a bit wide. That's going to allow Carr to stay ahead on the straightaway. We've got a group of 6 cars led by Spencer Clark behind. And he's got Kevin Clark hanging on to the back of him. This is 4 in the Delta class, and Clark, well, which Clark is it? It's Kevin, pulls right up to the back of Spencer, and loses a bit of time because of it. Hendricks now a half second off McKenzie. Shink is back up to Anthony Harrison. He's trying to take that spot back from him after all that chaos caused him to, he's originally trying to take it from Lazan. They both let Harrison by. Now he's trying to get back in the position he was originally looking for. But on this lap, Harrison stays ahead into turn number 1. Kyle Murray and Brian Saab are going to battle it out in turn number 1, and this is for 7th in the Delta class. Excuse me, 6th, and Murray can't do anything, so with that, Saab pulls ahead. He's back up into 6th. P1 in the first Delta race, P6 now. Not a bad result at all if it holds. Clavijo's having trouble. Now Rizla's gone through, and now Spencer Clark is going to go around the Yard driver as well. Kevin Clark slipstreams up to the back of him. Looking to the left, Clavijo just kind of defending in the middle of the track. And Clark's going to look for an over-under here. Nope, cannot get it working for him. And stays in that spot. Oh, no, I've just seen Kyle Murray was side-by-side with Franco Aguirre, and I think Aguirre may have gone a little wide and has spun off of Kyle Murray's nose. I'm not sure who is at fault there, but that means Murray is in P8 Delta. Franco does hold P9, but he's well out of that battle now. And we have another off track, it looks like. Al Rizla's had an issue, so Spencer Clark will have a go out and out of the chicane. Oh, but he's gonna. Al Ridgely does a good job holding that. And that's actually going to allow Clavijo back in. And Kevin Clark follows him through. So he finally gets around Spencer Clark. And Kevin Clark's on a great drive so far today. He's really been cutting up the field in this second race. He'll be behind Clavijo for now. Hendricks is still on the back of McKenzie in this race. 4 minutes to go. And Waj is also right there. So 2, 3, and 4, there's a lot of wins combined between these guys. There's also 8 championships on screen right now. 5 for McKenzie, 2 for Hendricks, and 1 for Savidovic. So a lot of history and experience with all these drivers, and all of them battling it out for the second spot on the podium. One of them is going to get left off of the podium entirely. Now, Mitchell, I saw an off track, but I don't think that really harmed Mitchell. He's been running his own race here, kind of alone. Matt Zepka also, after a suboptimal first race, has managed to get into the top 10 in the Alpha class, currently sitting 11th overall. Christian Ost also just running his own race right now. With less than 3 minutes to go, things have really calmed down here. And it looks like Ost is on track for a big-time Delta win. And looking back at Fuada Rizla in P2 right at the moment. So far this season, Jacob Wiley wins the first 2 Delta races at VIR and Hockenheim. And then today, Brian Saab takes home the win in the first race. So Christian Ost would become the 3rd different Delta winner if he is able to do it today, if he's able to bring that home. We have looks like McFarland may have had a little off track. We see Eric Curtis going for a little slide in the background. Curtis in his first start, currently 25th overall, 13th in the Delta class. Running the KTM livery on that Audi. Jason Lynn, I just saw him go around David Bauer, and Bauer actually going to send it to the pits. So that may be it for him. Shink may finally get around Harrison here. He sent it on him in the hairpin, but he's not got the run. Harrison again on the outside line. He's done a great job, but Shink's going to have his nose in with the lapped car of Eric Curtis ahead. Who's going to lose out? They go side by side. They may have touched into turn number 3. I think Harrison's going to have to yield it, and he does. The 18 finally gets by, and that is, oh, that's well timed because there's chaos in front as lapped cars go through, and Curtis is going to let them through now. And they've all handled that very well. That's the closest battle on track right now. The next closest being Kevin Clark on the back of Evan Clavijo, and then Brian Saab and Spencer Clark. But with less than a minute to go, things have calmed down, I think, finally, here at Knockhill. Michael Polasek going around lap traffic now. Oh, Kevin Clark now. There is movement happening in the hairpin. Spencer Clark defended on the inside, and Brian Saab has sent it. But I think they're all going to end up bumper to bumper coming out of there just because of how the momentum shook out. And Polasek comes off the final corner. They're waving the white flags for him. We will have 1 lap to go. He crosses the line with 5 seconds left in the race time. So there you have it, 20 minutes of Knockhill. Polasek just has to complete 1 more circuit, and he will bring home his 2nd victory so far this season, and will pull level with McKenzie, both with 2 wins. And it's really been, the first race very close to pulling off the victory, very close to knocking McKenzie off and sweeping the races here today. But it's still going to be a Yellow Flag Motorsports 1-2 in the first race, and a Yellow Flag Motorsports 1-2 in the second. This time it's Michael Polasek comes around the final corner and brings home the victory for the 2nd time this season at Knockhill. It is a resounding victory for the 45. A great drive. McKenzie's going to bring it home P2 with Wojciech Savinovic P3 just behind. McFarland is P5, Hendricks P4, and Christian Ost off the final hairpin. He is going to bring it home for Complex Sim Works. It's his first Delta victory of the season, and his campaign for that championship certainly begins now. Fuad Al-Rijla, after a hard-fought race, is going to bring home the second spot on that podium, and Evan Cavijo is third. And this whole group of drivers should give themselves a round of applause because they all had some intense racing. And Kirkland's going to be the final driver to come across the line, and that will do it for our race here at Knockhill. 2 races down. We will be right back to show you the final results. Two races in the book here at Knockhill. Let's take a look at the final results, starting with the first heat. McKenzie, Polasek, and Savinovic topped the podium for the first heat, and then it was Saab, Fedorowski, and Ost on the Delta podium for the first one. The rest of the results are as follows. Hendricks, Bauer, 2, Lazan, McFarland, Harrison, and Saab. That's the top 10. Then you have Mitchell, Fedorowski, and Schink, Ost, Clark, Clavijo, Zepka, Al-Rijla. That's the top 18. When was the last time that Fedorowski was the highest scoring driver for SIA? That is a great performance from him and a disappointing performance from Schink. Looking at this, the 4 OGs, a great day for them. Harrison and Saab racked up a ton of points with the P9 and the P10. SRG didn't have a bad day with an 8th and an 11th. But Yellow Flag Motorsports, you see Polasek displaying as a privateer there, but he was a Yellow Flag Motorsports driver for this race, so they bring home big points. Further down the field, Kevin Clark just behind Al-Rijla in 19th, and then Murray, Son, Lynn, Carr, Curtis, Aguirre, Lane, Shelton, Dreyer, Cockayne, and Sedano. And now we'll take a look at the final results from the feature race. Polasek, McKenzie, and Savinovic on the podium again. This time you flip Polasek and McKenzie, and that is the result of the second race. Ost had 3 drivers between him and the next Delta driver, a nearly 10-second gap. An incredible victory for him and that Complex Simworks team. Fuad Al-Rijla P2, Evan Clavijo P3. Here are the rest of your results. Now we've seen enough results. Let's take a look after 3 races. What are championship standings? Well, 3 rounds, 4 races. Let's see those standings and who's at the top. Right now, McKenzie with a pretty sizable 42-point lead over Hendricks. Drop week's not in effect yet, so look for Michael Polasek to leap up this order and become a contender very, very quickly. Schink currently sitting P3. Then it's Carr and Lazan and Bauer, the 3 breakfast for dinner drivers, all staying on top of each other, and that's basically what we've seen from them all season. Then you have Mitchell, Polasek, Sepka, and 2, rounding out the top 10 of the Alpha standings thus far. Taking a look at the Delta standings, we have Fuad Al-Rijla with a 7-point lead over Spencer Clark and then Christian Ost is an additional 2 points behind. That is a tight race, and all those guys have very similar pace. Fedorowski and Wiley are tied after Wiley missed this week's race. Otherwise, I think he would potentially be the Delta Championship leader. And then you have Saab, Lane, Aguirre, Lynn, and Murray rounding out the Delta top 10. And that is it from Knockhill. Thank you so much for watching. Next week, we head to Brazil for a 1-hour race, 2 pit stops at Interlagos. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.